What if nice guys finish last? Not because they're not good enough, but because they're too predictable. You were told to be kind, to be respectful, to be soft, understanding, emotionally available. But what if that's not what ignites her? What if deep down, she's not looking for safety, but for danger? Not for peace, but for power? This isn't a theory. This is psychological war, written over a century ago by Sigmund Freud. Freud didn't hate women. He just said the truth. And the truth made the world uncomfortable, because Freud dared to say out loud what society still denies. Women are not attracted to what makes sense. They are attracted to what moves them, even if it terrifies them. Let that sink in. You spent years trying to be the good guy, the polite one, the listener, the one who never raises his voice, the one who always says it's okay. But while you played it safe, she kept looking over your shoulder for the man who didn't ask permission. Not because she's evil, not because she wants to hurt you, but because her instincts were never trained to crave peace. They were trained to respond to power. Here's where it gets dark. The dangerous man doesn't mean criminal. He doesn't mean abusive. He means unpredictable. He means unapologetic. He means untamable. And that chaos, to the unconscious feminine mind, feels like life. Why? Because Freud believed that beneath every woman's desire lies a subconscious death wish, a craving for surrender, to be overwhelmed by something greater than herself. Sound extreme? Maybe. But how else do you explain why she chased the man who treated her like an option and ignored the man who treated her like a queen? This is not about blaming her. It's about waking you up. Because if you don't understand the truth about female desire, you'll keep living in delusion, trying to win love with niceness while she's falling for the storm. And that storm isn't outside you. It's buried inside you, waiting for permission to roar. Freud's forbidden insight really want. The great question is, what does a... But the truth is, he just wasn't... Freud believed that it wasn't orderly or idealistic. It was unconscious. It was dangerous. To Freud, women are driven internal forces. The drive for life, pleasure, Thanatos, the death, destruction, surrender. Men are only taught to think women want love, emotional connection, deeper, beneath the... and found that many women second. Why? Unconscious, surrender is a form of ecstasy, something more powerful than... Freud noticed that men who disrupted their world, something deeper than conversation, fear, not through presence. A man who flinch, who doesn't bend to the rational mind, but instinctive one. Because Thanatos, like chaos, can get lost in. This passion doesn't kill desire, and modern culture has taught men to be safe, predictable, emotional, but in trying to become invisible. Truly crave isn't city. This doesn't mean manipulative or abusive. That's insecurity, and Freud's truth is more subtle. The feminine psyche who kneels, but to the man who trembles. But what her dominance without force. Masculinity without... And that's why the dangerous... Not because he's a monster, unbothered by rejection, seek approval. And that her unconscious mind today are stuck in limbo. Wildness to be accepted for being too soft. He doesn't want you to lose your fire without being burned. You realize women want penetrating presence, not gently, completely. To understand female desire, you must understand the war inside her, not the war you see, the one in her words, her posts, or her logic, but the war between Eros and Thanatos. Freud believed that every human lives in a constant pull between two instincts. Eros, the drive toward life, connection, sex, love, union. Thanatos, the drive toward death, chaos, risk, surrender, self-destruction. We all have both, but in women, this tension is often more hidden because society tells them to be soft, kind, nurturing. So the Thanatos side goes underground, but it doesn't die. It waits. And when it awakens, it seeks out the man who feels like danger, because he gives her permission to feel alive without control. Here's what no one tells you. She doesn't want to feel safe all the time. She wants to feel shaken. She wants to feel claimed. She wants to surrender, but only to a man who won't collapse when she tests him. Because her chaos needs a container, not a mirror. And the nice guy? He mirrors her too much. He agrees, he listens, he adapts, and in doing so, he kills her polarity. The dangerous man? He stands still while she spins. He doesn't try to calm her storm. He becomes the mountain she crashes against. And in that crash, she feels release. Not because he controls her, but because he's uncontrollable. That's the secret of Eros versus Thanatos. She wants both. But she can't get both from a man who is trying to please her. She gets both from a man who is trying to be himself, fully, unapologetically, completely. So if you've been wondering why the more loving you are, the less she responds, this is why. You're offering Eros without Thanatos, safety without depth, love without gravity. She doesn't want to float. She wants to fall into something real, risky, and rooted. Women don't fall in love with peace. They fall in love with the man who doesn't fear her fire. Not Freud, just the truth. If this resonates, stop scrolling. Don't just relate, reclaim. Comment below. I've been him, the safe man, but I'm done. Subscribe if you're ready to break free from the illusion. Share it with one man who needs to hear this now. Because the world doesn't need more agreeable men. It needs more men who remember their edge. They told you, just be kind. Be emotionally available. Listen more, talk less. Don't be aggressive, be gentle. So you did. You became soft, you became safe. You became invisible. The nice guy isn't a bad man. He's a man who traded authenticity for acceptance. A man who mistook approval for love. A man who learned to shrink in order to fit into someone else's comfort zone. And what did it get him? Confusion, friend zone, rejection followed by, "You're such a great guy, but I just don't feel that spark." Let's be brutally honest. The nice guy doesn't lack goodness. He lacks presence. He lacks edge. He lacks the one thing women instinctively crave: polarity. Here's what no one told you growing up. Love isn't earned by becoming smaller. It's earned by standing in your truth, even when that truth makes others uncomfortable. But the nice guy can't do that, because deep down, he's terrified of conflict, terrified of rejection, terrified of being too much. So he becomes less. He agrees with things he doesn't believe. He apologizes for things he never did. He waits for permission to speak. He trades power for peace. And then he wonders why she's not attracted. But here's the cruel twist. Many women like the nice guy. As a friend, a listener, a backup plan. He becomes emotionally useful, but sexually invisible. Why? Because he's emotionally safe, but he doesn't lead. He doesn't challenge her. He doesn't move her. And women don't respond to still water. They respond to current. Most nice guys aren't nice because they want to be. They're nice because they're afraid. Afraid of taking up space. Afraid of being wrong. Afraid of owning their masculinity because someone once told them it was toxic. But here's the deeper truth. You weren't rejected for being good. You were rejected for being forgettable. So what's the answer? Stop asking how to be liked. Start asking how to be real. Because love that requires you to erase yourself isn't love, it's survival. And the day you stop needing approval is the day you stop attracting women who only want to fix, tame, or use you. Stop shrinking. Stop softening your edges to avoid being alone. Because the truth is, if you're not being rejected for who you truly are, then you're not really being seen at all. You've heard it before. He's toxic. He's dangerous. Stay away from him. And yet, she doesn't. She runs to him, sleeps with him, cries over him, goes back to him. Why? Because the dangerous man isn't a villain. He's a mirror, reflecting something primal inside her that she can't explain, but can't resist. Freud understood this long before red flags became hashtags. He believed that women are drawn to men who activate their unconscious fears, not to be harmed, but to feel something powerful. Fear and desire live in the same neighborhood, and the man who walks both streets without apology awakens her entire nervous system. What makes him dangerous? It's not violence, it's not cruelty, it's unpredictability. It's that she can't control him, and that loss of control is what turns her on. Because deep in the female psyche, control is the enemy of attraction. She doesn't want to mother him. She doesn't want to manage him. She wants to be moved by him. The dangerous man represents the unknown, and Freud believed that the unknown is the source of both anxiety and sexual energy. He's a mythological figure. The wolf outside the village, the pirate who takes without asking, the vampire who seduces and disappears, the rebel who doesn't beg for love, but gets it anyway. These aren't just stories, they're symbols of a psychological archetype. The man who doesn't bend for love, and is loved because of it. But here's the twist, the dangerous man is often not better. He's not kinder, smarter, or more loyal. He's simply more centered in himself. He lives by his own rules. He doesn't over-explain. He doesn't chase. And that stillness, that indifference, feels like dominance. Women don't want a man they can control. They want a man they can surrender to. Not because he demands it, but because his presence commands it. Here's the hard truth. You can't fake dangerous. You can't memorize your way into it. You can't perform it like a character. You become it by confronting your own fears, by owning your edge, by walking away when you're disrespected, by no longer begging for attention, sex, or validation. Because the dangerous man she wants is the man who no longer needs her to want him. Every man has felt it, that pull to prove yourself to her, to be seen, to be chosen, to be enough. So you try harder, you text first, you stay up late listening to her problems, you adjust your words, your vibe, your truth, just to keep her interested. But here's the brutal truth. The more you seek her validation, the less she feels attraction. It's backwards, right? You'd think that showing her more love, more patience, more effort would win her over, but it doesn't. Because you're not giving love, you're trading it. You're saying, "Look at how good I am. Please pick me." That energy isn't masculine. It's desperate, and desperation repels women, especially the ones you want the most. Freud believed that obsession with approval was a symptom of emotional regression, a return to childhood needs for validation from the mother. In simple words, you're not loving her. You're trying to get her approval to feel like a man. That's not love. That's dependence. And women feel it in your tone, in your eyes, in your silence when you're waiting for her reply. It doesn't feel solid. It doesn't feel grounded. It doesn't feel safe. The man who needs nothing is the man who has everything. Why? Because his self-worth isn't up for negotiation. He's not texting to prove. He's not performing to impress. He's not adapting to be liked. He leads even when she doubts. He speaks even when she pulls away. He walks even when she begs him to stay. Because he knows being chosen by her is not proof of his worth. His presence is. Let me be clear. There's nothing wrong with loving a woman, but there's everything wrong with needing her to love you back so you can feel valuable. That's not love. That's emotional slavery. The validation trap turns kings into beggars. It kills polarity. It breeds resentment. It rewires your brain to chase approval instead of truth. And worst of all, it teaches her that she can control you by giving or withholding her attention. That's not power. That's prison. So how do you break out? By learning to sit with your own value, by embracing solitude, by rebuilding your identity from the inside out, not from her gaze, but from your own reflection. Because the man who no longer needs her eyes to feel real is finally free. There comes a moment in every man's life where he has to choose. Be the boy who needs women to feel whole, or be the man who builds wholeness inside himself. Not the man who hates women, not the man who manipulates them, but the man who no longer chases, performs, or proves. The man who doesn't beg to be chosen because he's already chosen himself. That's the rebirth. It doesn't come from a breakup. It comes from the silence after it. From the nights you feel like nothing and realize that you are the only one who can rebuild you. The reborn man doesn't live to be liked. He lives to be in alignment with his edge, with his standards, with his discipline, with his truth. He doesn't text for validation. He speaks to lead. He listens without folding. He's grounded, even when she tests him. He doesn't punish her for pulling away. He just doesn't chase, because chasing destroys polarity. And he is a man who understands energetic polarity. Freud once wrote that masculinity is not given. It's earned through crisis and rebellion. And this is the rebellion: to stop being a boy who waits for a woman's attention to feel real, and start being a man who owns his presence regardless. This man doesn't flex, he doesn't brag, he doesn't dominate, but his stillness shakes the room. He walks in purpose. He commands respect without demanding it. He can take her or leave her not because he doesn't feel, but because he doesn't need. And paradoxically, that's what pulls her in. Because the feminine doesn't want a man who tries to match her. She wants a man who stays firm when her world spins. She wants a man who won't lose his center to gain her body. That man is rare and unforgettable, because he's not playing the game. He is the game. You're not here to convince her. You're here to remember who the fuck you are before the world told you to beg, bow, and break for love. So what do you do now? You stop asking, how do I make her love me? And start asking, how do I become a man who doesn't need her love to live fully? Because that's when you win. Not just in love, but in life. Most men think they need a woman to become whole. But the truth is, you become whole when you stop chasing wholeness through her. You were told that being nice would earn you love, that being gentle would attract softness, that being available would make you desirable. But now you know, love isn't earned through pleasing, respect isn't built through apologies, and desire isn't created through comfort. It's built through presence, through unshakable energy, through a masculine essence that says, I am not here to complete you. I am here to stand beside you, complete. So let this be your funeral for the boy who begged, who texted 5 times, who waited hours, who bent, twisted, and shape-shifted for attention. Let him die. Because a man is born when the boy in you finally gives up on being liked. You were never meant to be a puppy she pats. You were meant to be a storm she respects. And storms don't explain themselves. They just move. If you've ever asked, why doesn't she want me? Why does she always choose him? Why does being good never feel like enough? Here's the real answer. Because you were never supposed to become her idea of the perfect man. You were supposed to become your idea of the unshakable one. Not loud, not aggressive, just centered. And that is what she's been waiting for all along, but could never ask for directly. Because no woman will ever say it outright, I want a man who doesn't need me. But every part of her will respond when she feels him in the room. So don't change for her. Grow for yourself. Don't impress her. Impress your future self. Don't win her back. Win yourself back. Endings are for boys. Men keep rising, no matter how many times they're misunderstood, rejected, left, betrayed. Because the man who walks alone is often the one they all follow later. So now ask yourself, not, does she want me? But, can I look in the mirror and respect the man I've become? If the answer is yes, you've already won. And if not, get to work.